Jnanatimrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unnatam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhakti Mala, do you want to start us off with the English translation for that?
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual masters opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we're continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita from the 7th chapter entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text number 13 today. Text number 13. So, especially for Bhakti Mala, we'll just do a little recap. What we're reading in this section is about God's energies in the universe. So we might not be able to see God in terms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in our impure, contaminated state when we're in Maya, until we have pure love for Krishna. Of course, when we have pure love for Krishna, then you can see Krishna directly all the time. You can see Krishna all the time. You can see God face to face. But until we have that pure love for God, then he won't reveal his supreme form, spiritual form. And we can't see spirit with material eyes. So until we become purified and he gives us some divine vision to see the spiritual form, so we won't be able to see at this stage. But what we can see is God's energies, which are everywhere. So we can see earth and water and fire and air and we've been hearing verses that say that Krishna says, I am the taste of water and I am the heat and fire. I am the light of the sun and the moon. Can anyone, Bob and Gulshan, remember any others? What are some other energies that he tells us are himself?
Did you say the smell of the flowers?
No, I didn't say that. Yep. The fragrance of the earth,
yep,
which goes into the flowers.
The heat of the fire.
Yeah, heat of the fire. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The taste of water, I think you said.
Yep. Taste of water. Yep. Yeah. And he says, I am the ability in man. I am the prowess of the powerful, the strength of the strong, intelligence of the intelligent, like that. So, and in this last verse we read last week, he says, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within men. So Krishna gives a few examples previous to last week's verse, like we mentioned some of them. But here in this verse, he says everything, all states of being. So it doesn't matter what it is, it's all Krishna's energy. So not just the water and the fire and the sun and everything, but every single thing. And even if the objects are in the mode of ignorance, that's also Krishna's energy. So not only the good ones, not only the good stuff is Krishna, but even the bad, so-called bad stuff. Of course, from our point of view, we see something as good or bad. But from Krishna's point of view, there's no good and bad. It's just all his energy. But like he's saying in this one, that all these energies come from him, but he's not under the control of these energies. Do you get that? And we talked a bit about that. That although all the energies come from him, Maya, material energy, which is composed of three modes, sattva-gun, rajagun, tamagun, which is mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So they're all Krishna's energies. But although these different modes of nature, which the material is made up of these three modes, that all comes from Krishna, but he's not under the control of these modes. He's independent. So that's important to understand. but everything is Krishna's energy. So we can be Krishna conscious in every situation. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. Even some things we consider not very nice is Krishna's energy, like death, right? No, we don't. Put your hands up if you like death. But death is but death is Krishna's energy. That's another energy of Krishna.
Death is just changing clothes anyway.
Yeah, but that's right. If you have full knowledge and you understand what it is, then you're not afraid of it or get anxiety or whatever like that. We can look at that one. It's another section which talks about Krishna's energies in the 10th chapter. So that verse I mentioned is 1034 from memory, if it's correct. 1034. Yeah, it's talking about different energies here also. Yeah, 1034. Someone to read that?
I am all devouring death. I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness and patience.
So one side of our life is death, right? But the other side is birth. So he's also birth. That's also Krishna. Because it says there, the generating principle of all that is yet to be. So what does that mean, generating principle? That means taking birth. That's the generating principle. It means taking birth. So of all that is yet to be. So that living thing, which has taken birth, it doesn't have, it's unknown what it's going to be like or anything. That's why it says of all that is yet to be. So it hasn't really begun its life yet. But that energy, which the life has just begun, birth, that's also Krishna. So he's every side. He's the side of birth and death and youth and old age.
And the biggest question is, all his energy, then who am I?
You're also his energy.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like a day, morning. It's gonna be a beautiful afternoon as well, and the evening, and then a night, and then it'll be a next morning. And you know, in order to get next morning, you gotta go through the night anyway. Just a day, finish, and then next morning will be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Simple as.
So yeah, light is Krishna's energy, darkness is Krishna's energy, everything. The morning is Krishna's energy, the afternoon is Krishna's energy, so everything. So someone that becomes Krishna conscious is always connecting everything with Krishna in any situation. Like Prabhupada said, there was never a time that I forgot Krishna. Never a time. So that when he was just a young boy, he was remembering Krishna. And he tells a story like he would play with kites with his sister, Pishima his sister. So they would have a kite each. And they would both be praying to Krishna to make their kite go higher than the other siblings' kite. God, Krishna, please make my height go higher than my sister's kite, and she would be praying the same. So they were always thinking about Krishna in every situation. In the good times and the bad times, they would be thinking about Krishna in every situation like that. So that's Krishna consciousness, to always be conscious of Krishna, that he's everything, nothing separate from him. And yet Krishna, so nothing separate from Krishna, and yet Krishna has separated himself from his energies. Does that make sense? And we talked about that quite a bit. Do you remember some examples we gave to help understand that point? That although everything is Krishna's energy, everything comes from Krishna, but he's not there. He's not in it. Do you remember any examples we gave of that?
It's like a the king. he has got a different departments, and then
Yes.
he's in charge of every department, but he's physically not in every department.
That's right. He's just hanging out with his family in the palace. You know, he's
all
not
under his
all
control.
over the kingdom. But all over the kingdom, his energy is there everywhere. It's all running under his control and under his management and everything like that. And also the examples given of the factory and the factory owner. But see, the factory is the energy of the manager, of the owner, the CEO. But the CEO is not in the factory.
Yeah.
Where is the CEO?
He's sitting in the big office.
He's sitting in the big office, or he's playing golf with his friends, or he's doing something with his kids, his family, or whatever like that, on a yacht somewhere, or like that. So does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, Krishna's in the spiritual world, playing his flute, herding the cows, playing with his friends, dancing with his girlfriends, hanging out with his boyfriends. He's not managing, you know, everything, the water and the air and the sun and everything in the material world. That's what the demigods are for. So he's appointed different energies, you know. So the demigods are also his energies, saying, oh, okay, you look after the sun, you look after the moon, you look after the water, you look after the fire, you do this, you do that. You know, there's one demigod that controls blinking your eyes, you know, down to that small detail. You know, it's not that Krishna has to do that. Krishna's busy making everyone's eyes blink, you know, making our heart beat and our circulation go around the body and everything like that. No, there's different energies automatically are taking care of all these things. Krishna doesn't have to deal with those things. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we're up to. Okay, so today we're on text 13. Let's read the Sanskrit. Get into it. Tribir guna mayar bhavar.
Tribir guna mayar.
Ibi sarvam idam jagat.
Ibi sarvam idam jagat.
Mohitam na bhijanati.
Mohitam janati.
I'll read that again. Mohitam na bhijanati.
Mohitam janati.
Mamebhya paramavyayam.
Paramvayam.
Avyayam.
Okay.
Avyayam. Inexhaustible. Okay. Gulshan, would you like to read the English translation, please?
Deluded by three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and
Exhaustible.
Inexhaustible.
Mm.
Inexhaustible. Okay. Inexhaustible. Most and inexhaustible. Okay.
Like you had the word exhausted, right? Exhausted. That's the opposite.
Yeah.
Exhausted. So exhausted means you become, all your energy gets drained out, right? You get drained out. That's called, you're exhausted. Oh, yeah. I'm so, like Bhakti Mala's probably exhausted after working the Bhakti tree for a couple months, you know, she's exhausted. So, but the opposite is inexhaustible, inexhausted, you know, inexhausted or inexhaustible. So it never gets tired, never gets drained out, never gets used up. Like we mentioned, that what the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, what they speculate with their tiny brains is that God has expanded himself into this whole material creation, right? And they think that now God is exhausted. He's been distributed into everything. He's expanded himself into the air and the water and the fire and the sky and space and into the forms of demigods and all this tiny souls like us and everything. Now he's like lost. There's nothing left.
Oh, it means they're saying that God is spread it out.
Yeah, he's all spread it out. But here, that is said here, Krishna's saying that he's inexhaustible. It doesn't matter how much he spreads out, he still remains the same. And we gave the example, and this example is given, just like the sun, right? The sun is spreading out every day. Since how long? When did it start? Billions of years ago.
Yeah.
And how much longer will it continue to spread out for?
Another billion.
Billions and billions and billions. And has it become exhausted? No, it's still pumping out the same amount of heat,
Even
day after day after day. What's that?
Years, couple of degrees more.
More, yeah. So they talk about global warming, right? That it's getting hotter.
Cool.
So, and actually it said that how the universe gets destroyed is one of the components of that destructive process is that the sun gets 12 times hotter. So it actually cranks it up even more. So it's not like it's all petering out, it's fizzling out, it's getting exhausted as time is going on. Oh, okay, the sun's been pumping out so much heat now, it's fizzling out now. No, it doesn't work like that. It's unlimited energy, like that. So that's just a material object, the sun. What to speak of Krishna? He can keep expanding himself unlimitedly, and he doesn't get any less. He doesn't reduce his energy, his power, himself. His form doesn't get lost. Like we talked about a material example, if you divide a material object, then usually it gets lost, right? Like if you have one of Bhakti Mala's cakes and you chop it up into 12 pieces, what happened to the original cake? Is it still there?
No.
I give Bob a piece and Gulshan a piece and Bhakti Mala a piece and like that, Mahabhadra. Then is the original cake still there?
No.
No. So that's what the Mayavadis think like that, materially. Okay, Krishna has God has divided up into so many of us, billions and trillions of living things. Now he's not there anymore. He doesn't exist anymore. But see, where they've gone wrong is they're comparing God to some material object like a cake. But it doesn't work like that. You can't compare a material thing like that to some spiritual object like that. So Krishna's saying here himself that he's inexhaustible. Doesn't matter how much he expands himself, distributes himself, how many energies.
Ocean, how many bucket of water you can take it out? Never end.
That's right. You can never empty it out. Doesn't matter. You can put all your pumps there and suck it out, but it's not going to get any less.
Dry up? No way.
Yeah. And even, and all the other way too, all the rivers going into the ocean, and it doesn't go up either. It still remains the same, right? Doesn't matter how much, like now we had a massive rain here in New Zealand, so the rivers have been throwing water into the ocean.
We got
and the ocean's still the same. What's that? Australia
also heavy flooding. Mara River, Australia at the moment, watching the news. Oh my God, flooded everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. But if you check the level of the ocean, if you marked on the shoreline, I bet you it hasn't gone up. No. It's still the same. And it doesn't matter how much you pump out of the ocean or even like the sun, right? The sun every day is evaporating. The sun is evaporating water from the ocean, putting it in the clouds, but it's not becoming any less. So that's what God is like that, even more than that. It doesn't matter what you take away from God, add to God or anything, but he's always the same.
He's always complete.
He's always complete and he's unchangeable. He never changes because of all these energies coming and going from him like that. However, what this verse is also adding to that is saying that although he's not under the control of the material energy, but we are. That's what this verse is saying. How does it start off? Deluded. Who's deluded? God is deluded? No, we are deluded.
Yeah.
So it's saying Who's deluded? The whole world. Means, I mean, it's not actually the world, but the people in the world. So the people in the whole, all the people in the whole world are deluded. What does deluded mean? Deluded means in ignorance, you know, in illusion. They're in illusion. They're in illusion. They're in ignorance. The whole world. So the people in the whole world, they're under the control. So you've got the material energy Maya, and on top of that you've got Krishna. So God is more powerful, is greater, is controlling the material energy, which is one of his energies. Krishna has many energies, but the material energy Maya is one of his energies, and that material energy Maya is inferior to Krishna. However, you've got us, the individual souls, the jivas, we're called the atmas, atma or jivatma. So the soul can be called either a jiva, means a living entity, or an atma, which means a soul, or you can put both together, jivatma. So sometimes you'll read jiva, sometimes you'll read atma, and sometimes you'll read jivatma. So that's all different terms for us. So we're a tiny spiritual spark. We're a tiny part and parcel of God. So you've got God, and underneath God is God's energies like Maya, material energy, and underneath the material energy is us. So we're inferior, means we are under the control of Maya, of the material energy. But Krishna's above the material energy, so he's not under the control of Maya. And the example given for that is that just like is there some circumstances where we can't see the sun, but the sun's in the sky?
Yep.
Not nighttime, but in the daytime.
Cool.
When you can't see the sky, what is that? The sun. What is the reason why you can't see the sun in the daytime?
Because
the cloud.
The cloud, yeah. Okay, cloud. So is the cloud covering the sun?
From where we're standing, it is.
Wherever we can see,
From
yes.
where we're standing, explain further.
The place we are standing, from that place is covered, but other places maybe not, but only place we're standing is covered by. When we
How big is the sun?
No, because
Huge, you know, millions and millions and millions of miles wide. How big is the cloud? Is it as big as the sun?
No.
Now, so is the cloud actually covering the sun? No, because the cloud is like tiny. It's minute compared to the sun. So it's not really covering the sun. So what is covered? Our eye is covered. So from like you say, where we are, from where our eye is looking, that is covered by the cloud. So it's not actually that the sun is covered by the cloud, but our eye is covered by the cloud. Do you get that point?
Yep.
I don't really get that, no.
Look, I mean, say the sun is like, I don't know exactly, say it's 10 million miles wide. It's not correct, but say it's huge, you know, and the cloud is only 100 miles. So how can 100-mile thing cover 100 million mile thing? It's not possible, but it's us that's covered.
If you were standing in Mexico, it might be sunny. Here it's...
The example, and then the example is given, if you went in a plane and you flew above the cloud, then you can see the sun, isn't it? There's no obstruction, right? There's no obstruction to your eyes for seeing the sun if you fly above the cloud. So in this analogy, the cloud is compared to Maya, and us below the cloud is compared to the soul, and the sun, that's God. You know, so you get the idea. So in the analogy, the sun is compared to God, the cloud is compared to the illusory energy Maya, and the person standing underneath the cloud that can't see the sun, that is compared to the soul. So that's the analogy there. So the cloud is smaller than the sun, but our eye is smaller than the cloud. Isn't it? Our eye is smaller than the cloud, you know. So I mean, if your eye was bigger than the cloud, then you would see the sun, wouldn't you? You get it? If your eye was bigger than the cloud, you would be able to see the sun. But our eye is only 2 centimeters wide, you know, and the cloud is 100 miles wide, you know. So you can't see the sun. Yeah. So what is actually covered is our eye is covered. So, but actually the sun is never covered. You know, like I said, if you're above the cloud, you can always see the sun. Right? So God is never covered by Maya. Never. He's always above Maya. Just like the sun is always above the cloud. But it's us that's always covered by Maya. Always covered until we become Krishna conscious. Then it's like you've gotten the plane and flown above the cloud. You know, you've and we read that verse last week, 14th chapter, text 26. That if you engage in full devotional service, you immediately transcend the modes of material nature. So that was 14th chapter, text 26. So yeah, that's like if you engage in devotional service fully, then it's like getting in a plane and you've flown above the clouds. So then you're above Maya, you're above illusion. So what is the effect that Maya has on us? And it's mentioned here. That we don't know Krishna. We've forgotten. That's what the delusion is. That's what the ignorance is. We've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten who God is, and we've forgotten our relationship with God. Because Krishna's saying that here. Deluded by the 3 modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, the whole world does not know me. So just like I said, when you're below the cloud, you can't see the sun. So you don't know the sun. You know, if you imagine there was always cloud, like one time Prabhupada joked about UK, about Britain, that and he never saw the sun there. It's always like cloudy and raining and that in England. So the weather was so bad, you know, when Prabhupada went there, it was always raining and you never see the sun. There's actually been surveys done like that, that countries where you don't see the sun very much, people tend to be depressed and unhappy and everything like that. And countries where you get a lot of sunshine, where you see the sun a lot, then they tend to be more happier and everything like that. Like that. So like India, right, gets so much sunshine.
People are close to the water, they are more happy.
Close to the water?
Yeah, because we have got 70% water in our body. Water means water and they're happy. Whenever you go close to the ocean, you feel better.
I don't know. I haven't seen a survey about that. We have to. Gulshan, you can do a survey about that to see if people get happier.
That's a Gulshan philosophy.
Closer. I mean, you'll get happier if you get closer to the Ganges, because that's
water you can go closer to that, you're definitely happy.
Yeah. But definitely you get happier if you get the natural sunshine more than just always covered by cloud.
So you know, English people are not happy, is it? Because they never get the sun.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
they actually do light therapy with a lot of people. I've read over in places like England and stuff. They have special lights that people can sit under to stimulate the sunshine.
No, it is, and there's been a lot of research done about it's depressing if you're always in darkness. Yeah, it's depressing. You know, if you're in the light, you feel very happy, very enlivened, like that. And so this is the illusion that we've forgotten Krishna, we've forgotten God, we've forgotten God. One time Prabhupada went to, it was someplace in America, and a reporter asked him often there'd be reporters greeting Prabhupada along with the devotees when he would arrive at some airport. There'd be lots of kirtan and in the airport. And I was just thinking it's amazing times actually when Prabhupada was traveling around the world. We can't do that now, is it? have a massive kirtan in the airport. Oh my God, you can't imagine having 200 devotees with half a dozen mridangas and 10 kartals smashing and banging and dancing up and down in the middle of any airport. But in those days, in those hippie days, in the 60s and 70s, you could go in with unlimited number of devotees in any airport and do a massive kirtan inside the airport in the waiting lounge, just where the arrivals are. You're right in the arrivals section with 200 devotees doing a massive kirtan, and it was just amazing. So there'd be reporters there as well. And one time a reporter said to Prabhupada, why have you come here? He said, I've come to teach you what you have forgotten. God. Who is God? I've come to teach you what you have forgotten. You have forgotten God. Like that. So this is the effect of Maya, that we forget God, we forget ourselves. So that's the whole idea, right? And it's a bit trendy, right? Some people are interested in it. There's a course. Did you see there's a course on self-realization? There's a course on self. They don't often say God realization, but they say self-realization, like that. So we've forgotten who we are. What is our self? And actually, it's not possible to obtain self-realization unless you have God realization. Did you know that? It's impossible to know who yourself is unless and until first you know who God is. Why is that? It's a logic.
Yeah, because it's a simple. We are the part and parcel of Krishna. If we don't know Krishna, how can we know self-realization?
Yeah. And getting back to the sun, right?
Yes.
That before you can see yourself, I'm talking about your physical self, you have to see the sun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Unless and until you see the sun, you can't see your own body. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if the sun is not there, right, like it's gone over the horizon and it's dark, you can't see yourself, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you see the sun, then you see yourself, right? No sun, then no seeing who you are, right? You only see who you are when you see the sun. You know what I'm saying? Because without the light of the sun, you can't see yourself. You know what I'm saying? Or imagine you've got a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And it's all in pieces. It's all in pieces in the box, right? You tip the box out and there's 1,000 pieces there. And you pick up one piece out of that 1,000 pieces. Does that can you make any sense out of that?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all until you do what?
See
What do you have to see?
the whole picture.
You have to see the whole picture. That's it. You have to see the whole picture, which is God. So when you see the whole, when you see that whole 1,000-piece puzzle put together, the whole picture, then you can see, now I know where that piece goes. And now I know where that piece goes. And now I know where that piece goes. So you get the idea. So that you only know what the relationship of that piece is to every other piece when you see the whole thing, right? Yep. So when you understand God, automatically, now I know who Bob is. Now I know Gulsha. Now I know Bhakti Mala. Now I know myself. And then you know everything. Now I know what the sky and the earth and the water and the fire and the flowers and you know where it all fits in. But if you don't know God, if you don't know Krishna, and you have all just the separate stuff. You have a flower and you have water and you have the sun and this body and your body but it's all just a confusing mess. I remember before I met the devotees, I was always confused. I didn't know why, but I'd been educated, well educated, that's primary school, secondary, tertiary, university, everything, but I was so confused, so lost. Does anyone remember that? Did anyone ever feel lost in their life and confused? No? Maybe I was the only one.
No, I was guilty of that.
Till now even.
Yeah.
Abhay, can I interrupt for a minute? Can you
No,
hear
you
Claire in
can't.
the background?
Not at all. Not at
She's
all.
not bothering you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah,
So
material education, not a spiritual education. That's why we feel lost. You might have a PhD or something. Still, it's a material education, not a spiritual education. That's why this lost. Once you got a spiritual education, it's you'll be.
then you're
on track.
seeing the complete picture, which is
Yeah.
called Puranam. Puranam means complete. So then you see and it's a bit of a new age term they like using, holistic. This is a holistic philosophy, holistic, right? So you see the complete whole. So otherwise it's all very fragmented, and you have a whole lot of stuff, but you don't know how it all fits together. You don't have, then it's very confusing. It's very confusing, But now we can see the whole picture more, Krishna. Now everything makes sense. Now we can understand why things happen the way they do and everything, where everything fits in. And then that confusion goes away. So yeah, that's the effect that this material energy Maya has on us, is that we forget God. We lose our memory, our knowledge of God. Because originally the soul has full knowledge of God. We originally were with God. It's not that we've always been in the material world. Some even some transcendentalists say that actually the soul has always been in the material world. But that's their opinion. But what Prabhupada said, which is following the Vedic opinion, which is God's opinion, is that originally we were with God. So all of us know God. We know who God is. Originally we were with God. We lived with God. We lived with God, with Krishna. And but now we've been covered by Maya. And like this verse is saying, we'll show you another verse which explains what the effect of Maya is. It takes away our knowledge of God and who we are. So now let's look at the third chapter. The end of the third chapter talks about the effect that this illusory energy has on us. What did I say? Third chapter 30, it's around 39.
I've got it.
Chapter 39.
Want me to read it?
Yeah.
Thus the wise living entity, pure consciousness, becomes covered by his eternal enemy of the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Yeah,
so originally we're a wise living entity. We're not really a wise living entity, most of us in the material world now, but we're all wise living entities. And we know who we are. We know God. And we have a pure consciousness. So that pure consciousness, that's Krishna consciousness. That's love for God. But it's been covered, as it's saying, covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. So what's lust got to do with what I said, covered by Maya? Lust is one of the modes of the material energy. As we've been reading, it's 3 modes, right? The mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So lust, that's the mode of passion. So the mode of passion, what it does, it covers our original knowledge of our relationship with God. And the effect of that, what's the effect of having your knowledge covered? Your knowledge of God covered. What's the effect of that?
Ignorance.
Ignorance. And also that once you're in that lusty condition, that mode of passionate condition, you're never satisfied. And we all have experienced that, right? You're never satisfied. It doesn't matter how much you have. You're never satisfied. And it burns like fire. So if anyone, what does that mean? Can anyone relate to that? Burns like fire. Has anyone felt in their heart, like in your heart, in your mind, like a burning, like anxiety, and a burning anxiety state in your heart, in your mind? So that's caused by this lust, this passion. Has this burning, creates this burning effect, very painful condition in our heart, that we're never satisfied and you're always in so much anxiety. That we have so many desires, and those desires are never fulfilled, isn't it? We have so many desires because this mode of passion, that's desire. This lust, that means desire. So it doesn't just mean, lust doesn't just mean here in terms of sex, but lust means desire. So it means we have so many desires. What we want money, and we want fame and fortune and power and position, or we want the opposite sex. We want material possessions. We want to be recognized. We want adoration. We want people to respect us. We want people to love us, and so many things. We have so many desires, and that creates a burning in the heart. That creates a burning feeling. Can you relate to that?
My
Does
word.
that make sense?
Yeah, all the world that are where they're happening, the war and all that is just example of it.
Yeah.
Everywhere the war is happening there, and then Australia is buying more and more weapons now from US. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was the same when I had a businessman. I had a business, always burning desire. I want to buy this sports car, jet ski, never ended. Whenever I get something, and then passion finish for that, and the next passion starts.
That's right.
That's the thing. So even clothes, everything.
Yeah, that's right. It's not even if you do get what you desire. Even
And
if you do, I mean, often we don't. But even if you do get what you desire, it's not finished, because that's the nature of lust. You just want more and more and more and more.
Even if you buy a brand new car, within 6 months' time, new model comes, you feel like your car is old.
Yeah. I mean, one time I was distributing books, and I went to some guy's office, and his first reaction is, "I got no time, get lost." And I turned around to go, because I could see there's no point arguing with this guy. And I turned around and he said, "Oh, hang on a minute. What have you got there? Show me." So I was quite surprised, but anyway, I did what he said. I turned around and showed him the book, Science of Self-Realization. He saw that, and he said, "I want that book." And then he just threw me a little bit of loose change. Didn't really cover the cost, but anyway, I wasn't worried about that. And I went away. And then the next day, I was in that same town. The next day, I was going to go out again. So my friends dropped me off from the van. I just got out of the van, and they drove off to go other places and left me there. So I got out of the van, and another van pulled up beside me. And the guy wound down the window, and I recognized it was that guy from yesterday that said, "Get lost, no time," and then changed his mind a second later and took the book. And then he said, "I'm so sorry the way I treated you yesterday. I'd just like to apologize. I read 50 pages of that book last night, and it's changed my life."
Wow.
It's changed my life. Self-realization, like I said. Finally found the science of self-realization. And he said, I just want to tell you about what I've been going through. He said, I own a food distribution company. And he drives around delivering food to different places. And he said he had a goal that if I just can earn 100 grand a year, I'll be completely happy. If I can just get 100 grand a year, I'll be completely happy. So he worked more harder and really focused on that. I've got to get 100 grand. and that's going to be perfection, bliss. So, and he worked hard and everything. And you know what happened? He actually achieved what he thought would make him happy. He got 100 grand. But then he was driving, he'd got 100 grand, and then he was driving his vans and reflecting that I'm more unhappy now. I'm more unhappy now after getting 100 grand than before I had 100 grand. You know what I mean? He'd achieved what he thought was the perfection of life, 100 grand. But he was actually in more anxieties now that he'd achieved that goal. He had more anxieties than before. He was more happy when he had a 50 grand than when he had 100 grand. He had more anxieties, more pressure, more work, more stress, everything like that. And then he probably wanted 200 grand. So anyway, said he was feeling so depressed that he got what he thought would make him happy. He got it, but then he wasn't happy. When he was so confused, what went wrong? What was wrong with my goal? What's wrong with me? I'm so confused. I don't know where to go. So he was driving his van, thing like that. And then he said, the first time in my life at that point when I was so unhappy and so depressed and so frustrated that I wasn't getting happy from running after these desires. He said, the first time in my life I prayed to God. He was an atheist, First time in my life I prayed to God. He said, God, if you exist, then please help me.
and then God sent Abhicharan to him.
Yeah, the next day after he prayed, the first time in his life he thought about God. God, if you exist, please help me. The next day I come to his office. Excuse me. And I've got some books on self-realization. They said, get lost. I got no time. But then it clicked. Oh, yesterday I prayed to God that if you exist, maybe this is God sent, So that's why he changed his mind, because he remembered he prayed to God the day before. So like that. But and then he said to me, this has helped me so much, those 50 pages, I'm so sorry I only gave you bugger all yesterday. Here, take this. And he gives me like $50 for one little book that I gave him yesterday. And then he said, one of my friends is like really in trouble, is really majorly depressed. Do you have any book that can help him? I said, sure, here's the Bhagavad Gita. Take this. So then he gave another donation, and then he went away, so happy. And what had happened? He'd been driving up and down that town's all the streets hoping to find me. That's how really serious he was. He was driving because he didn't know where I was going to be, but he was hoping that he would find that monk that gave him the book yesterday. So he'd been driving up and down the streets of that town searching for me. That's how much transformed he was by just reading that book, So these books are so powerful. We should read the books ourselves and try to introduce them to other people. It can transform people's lives. There's stories about a person that was just going to commit suicide, and then they saw a Bhagavad Gita or something on the shelf, and then they just thought, before I kill myself, let me have a look at that. And they just read a bit, and then they changed their mind and didn't kill themselves. I mean, there's heaps of stories like that.
Yeah.
One guy was going to, he filled up the car like that, turned on the car in an enclosed garage, filled it up with carbon monoxide, and was going to just kill himself with carbon monoxide, slowly fall to sleep or whatever. And then he also read the book and then didn't kill himself. So there's so many amazing pastimes with Prabhupada's books are so powerful.
It's a drug-free solution.
Yeah. But but why I told you that story is just to show you how that this lust, this desires, it's never satisfied, and it creates a burning in the heart. Like this guy felt this burning unhappiness and depression in the heart, and anxiety and fear and so many things, this burning feeling in the heart. So that's because of the mode of passion. That's all it is. So well, what do you got to do? You just got to get out of the mode of passion, you know. And how do you do that? That's by Krishna consciousness, you know. So by Krishna consciousness, you can get out of the mode of passion, you know, and you can get out of the mode of ignorance. And then we'll be happy. Then we'll actually be happy. It's not difficult, but you just got to know the science. Once again, the science. Yeah.
It's all Krishna's energy. Without Krishna's permission, we cannot get out, because that's his energy, isn't it? Without his permission, like
true.
We cannot get out. Finally, Krishna will help us to get out.
Yeah. So like
no
that
other way.
Like what he did, what started the transformation was he first time he prayed to God, right? God, if you exist, please help me. You know, so definitely what Gulshan's saying is true, you know, without God's help, without his mercy, you know, we can't get out. And that's what he says. If you look in the 7th chapter, text 14, we can look at that now.
The second 14, is it?
7.
7:14.
Sorry, my Kiwi accent.
Sorry.
7:14.
Next verse. Divine energy of mind, consisting of all three modes of nature, material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. I have got a good example of that.
Yeah.
So one guy, he going to visit his friend, and because he's got outside the fence is written there, beware of dog. And then he's trying to get in, and he's a big German shepherd growling at him. He can't. He just leave it out himself. And he said, how can I get into the gate and knock the door? And he went to the other side, dog comes there. And he went to the right side, dog comes there. He said, I can't see my friend. Then he yelled from outside. And then his friend came, and then he called the dog. Dog, you just come and sit down in his feet, and he can get in. You got it? So that was because of him. He said to the dog to come and sit here. Yeah. And then he sit, and then he get in. Otherwise, like that dog was a material energy under the owner.
That's a good example. Yeah, I like that.
Can't get in until the owner says, it's like Krishna's energy is there, all that, until Krishna will say, we can't get in.
Yeah. That's a good example. Good one. Good one. Give yourself a pat on the back for that one, Gulshan.
Thank you. This is also Krishna. It's Krishna. Krishna is my intelligence. It's not me. It's up there. It's up there.
I mean, ultimately things are done by Krishna, but he does it according to our desires. So that's our part. What's all that we're really doing, the soul is the Jivatma is desiring. And according to the desires, then Krishna makes the arrangement. So watch out, you know, what you desire.
Oh, yes.
If you desire to forget God, then he'll arrange that, you know, and you'll never remember him.
If you put the seed on the ground, it will sprout, no matter what.
So be careful what seeds you sow, you know, whether it's the, you know, rose or a cactus.
Yes.
You know, so that's under our control. We have, Prabhupada calls it a minute independence. We have a minute independence. So that minute independence, that's freedom to desire. What do we desire? Do you want to serve God? Or do you want to become God? Or do you want to forget God? There's a big difference, you know, and your future is going to be completely different depending on which choice you make. You want to serve God? Okay, you'll have one future, one destiny. You want to become God? There'll be a different destiny. Or you want to forget God? There'll be another destiny. You know, so the real happiness for the soul is to serve God. You know, any other choice we make is just going to lead to so much confusion and unhappiness. So yeah, back to our verse for today. Yeah, so we're being deluded by Krishna's Maya, but if we surrender to Krishna, as we just read, then who's above Maya, then he can help us also to come above this illusion. And then we'll be free from all this burning fire in our heart and dissatisfaction like that. We'll become happy. Like Prabhupada's, like it was said, they were dirty, dull-faced hippies, and then they became bright-faced happies. Went from hippies to happies. So if you want to become a happy, do you want to be a hippie or a happy? Put your hand if you want to be a
In order to
hippie.
become happy, I have to become a hippie first.
But what was the good point about the hippies? You know what it was? Why the hippies became attracted to Prabhupada, not others?
Because they left everything. They were like empty glass.
So what do you call that? You left everything. What do you call that?
Well, surrender situation.
Detachment
Yes.
from materialistic things.
Yes.
From material. In Sanskrit, we call it vairagya. Say that. Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment. So
Is that spelt with an I?
V for Victor, A for apple, I for ice cream. So
V-A-Y.
V-A-I.
V-A-I.
Yeah, I for ice cream.
Yeah.
Then R for Rama.
Yep.
A for apple.
Yep.
G for George. Y for yes.
Yellow.
And A for apple. So that's vairagya. Vairagya means detachment. So very essential to progress in spiritual life, depending on vairagya, detachment. And vairagya usually comes after you get jnanam, like this chapter here, knowledge. So jnanam means knowledge. So two essential things to progress in spiritual life is knowledge and detachment. So jnanam, J-N-A-N-A-M, jnanam, jnana or jnanam. So if we get knowledge, then that will help us to detach from Maya, you know. As long as we're in ignorance, we can't detach, we can't let go of Maya. But the secret of getting out of Maya is we have to detach. And the secret of detachment is knowledge. And the good thing about bhakti, if you just do bhakti, like what's bhakti? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or like now, we're hearing Bhagavad Gita, 9 processes, right, of bhakti, hearing, chanting, and so forth, remembering. If you do any of these processes of bhakti, automatically you get knowledge. Automatically you get knowledge. And then following the knowledge, what do you get? What follows knowledge? What did I just say? What normally happens after you get knowledge?
You get jnana.
No, jnana is knowledge. What happens after you get jnana?
Detachment.
Detachment.
Yeah.
So you get detachment. Anyway, I mean, so the hippies must have had some knowledge. What knowledge they had? They had knowledge because where did those hippies come from? What kind of families?
They were for good families.
Yeah, good families,
My
rich.
Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, yes, he was.
Yeah. I mean, like my guru's father was a lawyer and he was a big real estate owner. He was like multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
But so what knowledge, but then his son became a hippie.
Yeah.
And many were like that. But so what they could see that, my parents, they have so much money and wealth and possessions and everything, but they're not happy. They're in anxiety. So with that knowledge, they just walked away. So I don't want it. See you later. I'm just going to live under a tree and unfortunately smoke marijuana. So they didn't get it completely right. But anyway, because they didn't have bhakti. But luckily, because of they had that detachment, they could appreciate Prabhupada. They could appreciate Prabhupada because they had come to that point of detached from material things. You know, not all material things. Unfortunately, they're attached to two things: sex and drugs. You know, so that's two attachments which are not good. But a lot of other things, they let go of that. You know, so, but by Prabhupada's influence and association, Prabhupada helped them to completely detach. You know, so then even the hippies that met Prabhupada, they even stopped having illicit sex and stopped having drugs. So that they became truly renounced, truly detached. Another word for detachment is renunciation or renounced, like a sannyasi, right? The sannyasi, that's the renounced order. So that means fully detached from materialistic life. Fully detached from materialistic life. There's let's have a look if we can find some verses about that. So fifth chapter, text 3, talking about the beginning here. It talks about renunciation.
Gilshan's always the quickest.
No, not today. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of activity is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcome material bondage and is completely liberated. Almighty Arjuna.
So in the verse it says Nitya Sannyasi. So Nitya means always and Sannyasi means renounced. So that's what a sannyasi is. It means they're detached or renounced from what?
Not from the fruit of activities.
Yes. So it's not saying that they're detached from activities. Doesn't mean they're not doing activities. Like, did Prabhupada stop doing activities?
No, he's still doing. What was
He did so much. He traveled around the world more than us. You know, 10 times he traveled around the world in 10 years. So, and he wrote 70 books. That's a lot of activities. And initiated 10,000 disciples. That's a lot of activities. And wrote lots of letters every day. That's a lot of activities. And but detached from the fruits of the activities. That's real sannyas. That's real detachment. So detachment doesn't mean you don't do anything. Detachment means you do things, but whatever result comes, the fruits from those activities, you're not attached to them. You're not attached to them for yourself, but you give them to Krishna. So definitely a fruit will come, means a result will come, whatever you do. There's two kinds of fruits. What are the two kinds of fruits? Good and bad.
Yes.
Good and bad, right? Good and
Both
bad.
the fruit.
So either you get success or you get failure, right? Like here in Arjuna, right? Battle. In the battle, what's the two fruits you could get in the battle?
Either winning or losing.
Yeah, you win or you lose. You know. In business, what are the two fruits?
Same success or failure.
You make money or you lose money. So it's the dualities, right? The world of dualities. So it's either you get good, bad, victory, defeat, you know, profit, loss. You get the idea. So these are the fruits, right? So, but what a sannyasi is that you're doing the activities, and these two fruits, that they're not for you. They're for Krishna. So whether you succeed or fail, that's for Krishna, not for me. Whether you make profit or loss, that's for Krishna. It's Krishna's profit, Krishna's loss. It's not my profit, not my loss. My defeat.
Krishna profit or Krishna loss, Krishna never lose.
That's right. So in Krishna, doesn't mean anything to Krishna. Krishna's got unlimited wealth. If like that, it doesn't matter if you lose $10. You know, it's not going to affect him. But what's the benefit of that in terms of how we feel if you're not attached to the results?
Satisfaction.
It's like that. You know, we read about before, that burning fire. Yeah. There's no more fire, because that's what creates the burning fire. That you get attached to the results creates that burning fire. But if you're not attached to the outcome, the results of whatever work you do, if it's all for Krishna's pleasure, not for my pleasure, it's for Krishna. So I don't care whether I win or lose or make money or lose money or whatever like that. Then that's stress-free. That's anxiety-free. Materialistic people can't understand how that works because they're so attached. They're so attached to everything. But they can't understand how a devotee can be so blissful and so happy, even though in difficult situations.
That's why Krishna says that to Arjuna, I only allow you to shoot the arrow. Where the wind gonna take this arrow, you got no control over it. I'll decide where it's gonna hit the target or not. You only shoot the arrow, that's all.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So there's another verse. See if I can find it. 247.
247?
Yes.
Hurry up, Bob.
Oh, mate, I'm not as quick as you.
Come on, beat me. Bob the Builder.
I've got it.
Yeah, you have it right.
You want me to read it?
Please read it. Please read it.
Okay. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
So usually if Hindus know any verses from the Bhagavad Gita, it'll be they know the first line of this one.
I think this verse we have to show to Manapati. He always say that I put the seed in there, or sometimes that a wind will do that, sometimes rain's not coming. And I said, all you got to put seed in there, that's all. Wind and the sun and the water, it'll be happen automatically. It's up to Krishna, but he's not happy. He always complaining to me, this happened, that happened, that happened. I think this verse
that's why we call conditioned souls. It's hard to change the condition.
I have to take this verse to him. Big and
So,
large.
so Krishna's saying here that you should do your work. You should do your duty. See, some people, and this was also there 5,000 years ago, that's why Krishna's addressing it here, because people like Arjuna had the idea that just give up your work, like the hippies, right? And the hippies still had that idea. I'm just going to give up my work. And they think that's spiritual, isn't it? Many and a lot of New Age philosophies will be like that. If you give up all of your activities, then you become real spiritual.
You cannot run from your duty. If
so that's what Krishna's saying here, that the spiritual does not mean giving up your work.
Yeah.
You should do your work as a matter of duty.
Yeah.
But what it means is that
don't wait for the outcome.
That whatever the outcome of the work is, that's not for you. Whatever the result or the fruit, the outcome of the work, that's not for you. That's what this verse is saying. That you should do your work, but the outcome or the fruit of the work, that's not yours. That's God's. And also that whatever the outcome of the work is, you weren't the cause of it. And that's what Gulshan is saying. So you are not the cause of the result. You're not the cause of the result. So you should do the work, but the fruit of the work, the result's not for you. And you didn't cause the result of the work. And, interestingly, do not get attached to not working. Do not be attached to not doing your duty, to not working. Because Arjuna was becoming like that. He was attached to the idea of not fighting.
Yeah.
So Krishna's establishing here that's not correct. This is the way we should all live.
Krishna said, you are Kshatriya, you have to fight, that's it. Don't worry about the results.
Yeah. And how do we know what our duty is? That's the next question. Okay, now I understand that I have a duty to do so, and that I shouldn't be attached to not doing it. So, but how do I know what is my duty?
Depends what sort of mode of nature you're born with it. Like your duty changes. Like when I was young and a single, my duty was different. When I become a married and the children, my duties are different. And now I'm back to the single again, my duties are different.
Correct.
It
So
changes.
therefore we have what's called Varnashram Dharma. Varnashram Dharma. So this is the social divisions and spiritual divisions. And Krishna has set up this system. So what is that Varnashram Dharma? Is 8 divisions, 4 in the social divisions and 4 in the spiritual. So in the social, you've got Brahmana, means like you can work as a teacher, kind of teaching anything. And then intellectual, so you're an intellectual kind of nature, a teaching kind of person. Or you could do work in administration that includes like, leader in the military is ruling, like politicians and so forth. And then a producer, productive class, that's Vaishya. So that's, looking after the cows and growing things like that, growing food and stuff like that. A mercantile, some produce, transporting produce and stuff like that around, gold and things like that. And then you have laborers, Sudras. So those are 4 different kinds of ways that you can maintain your body. I mean, because we all need to maintain our body, right? Need some kind of income to maintain the body. So there's 4 different ways you can do it. As intellectual, as administrator, as a producer, or as a laborer, like that. And then 4 in the spiritual division, you start off your life as a student, that's brahmachari. And then if the brahmachari wants to, he can get married, and that's
if he can't control his sex life, he become a grasta.
Yeah. So these are called ashrams. That's like shelter. So brahmachari ashram, grihastha ashram, then vanaprastha ashram. So when the kids are grown up, they get married, then you retire. So that's retired life. The husband and wife will leave the home when the kids have got married, and they'll travel around and visit holy places and practice austerities.
Travel around with wife or without wife?
What's that?
Travel around with wife or without wife?
With the wife. Vanaprastha travel, the husband and wife travel together. So they left the kids, they've left the job, means he's retired from his occupation he had when he was a grihastha. So like that, just like the Pandavas, right? They retired from being the king, retired from being the kings and that, and then like that, and then they went to the forest like that. So you retire from your job and leave the house, leave the kids, everything like that, and travel, husband and wife travel together, and you practice, just detaching from all the materialistic things and increase your attachment to the spiritual things. So it means more chanting, more hearing the scriptures, more associating with devotees, going to holy places and being with devotees there and stuff like that, and preparing for death, and then ultimately, if the man is able to, he'll take sannyas, and that point he separates from the wife, and the wife at that point goes back to the grown-up son. So the wife should always, you can't just throw your wife away and let her suffer. No, he's either under the husband's protection or he's back to the son's protection. In the beginning, the woman is under the father's protection, and then married, then husband's protection, then like that. Of course, in modern day society, a lot of women don't have any of that. You don't have the protective father or the husband or the son. But if then take shelter of Krishna. So that's what Bhakti Mala has done, which is exemplary. And of course, Krishna is the best protector. He's better than the father, better than the husband.
We got a lot of Matajis in the farm, Shri Kari Mataji and all that. They just shelter under the Krishna.
Yeah, take shelter under Krishna. Like, for example, There was, in Krishna book, you can read in Krishna book, there was one great demon named Balmasura or Narakasura. He was actually, his mother was Bhumi, means Mother Earth. But so he was a fantastic mother. Actually, his father was Varahadev. So the boar incarnation of the Lord, when the boar one time, Varahadev lifted the earth that had fallen out of orbit, the earth had fallen out of orbit into the Garbhodok ocean, that's half fills up the universe. So when the Varahadev had pushed the earth up with his tusk, that contact with the Lord impregnated the earth. So the earth got impregnated by Varahadev, and from that contact, then this son was born, and he grew up with, I mean, fantastic parents and everything like that, association, mother, but then he had bad association. So this is why it's recommended for devotees to be careful about who you associate with. Don't have the low class association of evil people or whatever like that, drunkards and womanizers and liars and cheaters and bad people like that. Stay away from them. That's very dangerous. So he became influenced by that bad association. He became really evil, really demoniac, an asura. So he was known as Balmasura. And he attacked so many kings, and he was very powerful, of course. He's the son of God and Mother Earth. So he was undefeatable. So he kidnapped 16,000 princesses, beautiful princesses. He kidnapped them. And they sent him, and then he imprisoned them. And then they sent a message to Krishna, please rescue us, please save us. No one can save us except for you. So Krishna came and he destroyed all of his army and his fortress, and finally killed him. Finally killed his own son, you know, and his other incarnation is Varahadev, who is the father. So he killed Balmasura with a Sudarshan disc. He chopped off his head. And then he said to the princesses, okay, he released them. And he said, now you're free to go home now. And they all said, no, we can't go home. Krishna said, why can't you go home? Go back to your fathers. They said that our fathers will not accept us because we've been living under another man's shelter, so we can't go back to our father. So that was how strict Vedic culture was, that you know, if the daughter goes out of the parents' house even for one night, then in strict like that Vedic culture, they wouldn't be even allowed to come back. They would be regarded as, you know, not very pure anymore or whatever, if they've been associating with other men. So, and no other man will marry us, because that was also Vedic culture, that, you know, if the woman has been associating with other men and away from the father, then most men, they wouldn't marry the woman. So all the princesses said, but we can't go back to our father, and no other men will marry us. So Krishna said, what do you want then? See, they all said, we want to marry you. And Krishna said, okay. You know, so Krishna took all 16,000 of them. You know, so, sorry, 16,100. It was 16,001, exactly 16,100 princesses. Krishna married them all. And he gave each one of them a palace, their own palace. And he expanded himself to be with each princess at the same time. So Krishna lived with each one of those princesses at the same time. They went from rock bottom right to the top. So anyone that takes shelter of Krishna, you know, they get protected, you know, and maintained, you know, directly by Krishna. Because you've got to realize that who is the father is Krishna's energy. Who is the husband is Krishna's energy. Who is the son is Krishna's energy. So if you're being looked after by Krishna's energy, very good. But if the Krishna's energy is not there to look after you, then who will look after? Krishna himself. And that's pretty cool. You're directly looked after by Krishna. And previous to that, Krishna had already married 8 princesses. So that's why totally he had 16,108. So he'd already married 8, starting with Rukmini. So Rukmini was number 1. She was the chief, and then Satyabhama and so forth, and then first 8, and then in one go 16,100. And they were all completely blissed out, you know, that Krishna was looking after them.
Is it Radha was in one of them, or Radha was?
No, then that's in the girlfriend category.
Oh,
That's in
okay.
the girlfriend category. There's which is different than the worldly girlfriend category. In the material world, girlfriend is the lowest category. Boy and the girl associating outside of marriage is the most degraded. You know, going from one to another. Usually it goes from one to another. And that's the lowest. But in the spiritual relationships, that's the highest. Interestingly. So, I mean, it's actually a whole big subject. We could talk about that for a whole session about that. And relating with Krishna inside a marriage is called Swakhiya. Swakhiya. And relating with Krishna outside of marriage is called Parakhiya. So Radharani and the gopis, the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, that's in the Parakhiya rasa. And rasa means relationship and the taste or the flavor that we get from the relationship. So Swakhiya rasa and Parakhiya rasa. So, and of course you have other relationships like as parent and child, like you have Krishna as your child, you're the parent. That's called Vatsalya rasa. And you're the friend of Krishna like Arjuna, that's called Sakhya rasa. And if you're a servant of Krishna, like Krishna's chariot driver, Daruka, that's Dasya rasa. Dasya rasa. Or like Hanuman, serving Ram, is Dasya rasa.
We are in the Dasya rasa.
Hey, everyone is Dasya.
I don't know about anyone, I just talking about myself.
Okay. Yeah. And then, yeah, like that. So, and then you have a neutral relationship. It's called Shanta rasa. That means not ready to render personal service yet, but you're appreciating that God is very great. So that's called Shanta rasa. So these are different relationships one can have. But why is this unmarried relationship with Krishna higher than a married relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world? Is because there's more obstacles that you have to go through to serve Krishna. So it involves a lot more surrender.
If you're unmarried.
If you're unmarried. Because like I said, in Vedic culture, you can't leave your parents' house in the night, you know. You can't leave your husband. No way. It's like unthinkable in Vedic culture. You know, you can't leave your duties to your children and the household duties. No way. Unthinkable. But when Krishna played his flute.
Yes. And the gopis left everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Left fathers, husbands,
yes.
children, everything. Yeah. Cooking on the stove.
Yeah.
You know, getting dressed.
Even
everything.
Kids even.
So that's like complete surrender. It's like Draupadi, right? When in the Kaurava assembly, then Jusasan is pulling off her sari, trying to make her naked. The Kauravas were so demented, they wanted to see the Pandava's wife and Draupadi naked. So they were stripping her clothes off. So she tried to protect herself, but eventually she realized that I can't protect myself. So what did she do? Complete surrender.
Surrender to Krishna.
Hey Govinda, hey Gopal, save me, Krishna. Like that, complete surrender. So the gopis were like that. They just gave up all their other duties. Because what is the main duty? What is it? Actually, we have only one ultimate. We have so many duties, of course. I have a duty to my parents, a duty to my kids, a duty to my partner, you know, a duty to my pets, dog, you know, the government, the New Zealand, the human beings, to the demigods. I have a duty to the cows, duty to everything, you know, sages, everything like that. But what's the ultimate duty?
To go back to Godhead, do you mean?
To do what God wants, you know, to surrender to God, be obedient to whatever God wants us to do. So we have so many duties that we've created, you know, that things that we think are important that we want to do. But ultimately, the only real ultimate duty is to do what God wants. You do it. And if God wants you to come in the middle of the night and dance in the forest, then that's what you should do. That's the ultimate duty, like that. So that's why, in spiritual terms, to be Krishna's girlfriend is the highest, because it involves the most surrender, the most you have to give up, the most things, you know, the most detachment,
Unconditional.
material things. What's that?
Unconditional.
Unconditional, you know, and even if it makes your life crap,
Yes.
completely make, because also in Vedic culture, if you leave your parents' house, husband's house, you're probably going to get bashed up, you know, if you return, you know, you're going to get thrashed, you know. Gulshan can tell about that. So now I just got to turn the battery on. You know, you're going to be scolded. I mean, at the very least, you're going to be scolded to your black and blue in the face. You know, you're going to get verbally, you like rascal, 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 rascal. You know, so
not only him,
and then so there's a lot of repercussions. You know, you risk a lot of personal difficulties. You know, so but the gopis didn't care. Like one time also, Krishna said that I've got a headache, and go around and tell my devotees that the only cure to my headache is the dust from their feet. I need to put it on my head. And if I get the dust from my devotees' feet on my head, then my headache will be cured. So he went around to the devotees in Dwarka, and they said, no, we can't give that. We'll go to hell if we give you the dust from our feet on Krishna's head. And he went to the devotees in Mathura, and they said, no way, we can't give the dust from like that. We'll go to hell. And then they went to the devotees in Vrindavan, they were the gopis in Vrindavan, and the gopis said, oh no, Krishna has a headache, oh my God, what can I do? And Krishna said, oh, he needs the dust from your feet, you put it on his head, and that'll fix it. And they said, how much do you want?
take it.
Take it. And then the devotees said, don't you realize you may go to hell? Who cares? You know, we don't care, but Krishna's headache has to be fixed. You know, so that's the thing. You know, that's, you don't, completely selfless service, pure love. That's the example. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the gopis, the best example of the pure love for Krishna. No personal consideration about their own happiness. Nothing. They just want the happiness for Krishna. If Krishna's happy, that is our happiness. Joy. You know?
Gopi Bhav.
Yeah, so very special. Wow, that was nectar. That was nectar.
Yes.
I'm glad we got to talk about that. That's very high subject matter. So yeah, we don't normally talk about these things with general people, but you're all good devotees. So we're happy to talk about.
You're a good preacher. Without you, we can't understand this nectar. We cannot hear this nectar without you.
Yeah, but materially, like I said, materially, you know, obviously should be married. You know, unmarried relationship. Of course, it's one of the principles we follow. No illicit sex. So this is very important. In the material world, you know, this illicit relationship is very bad. But in the spiritual world. But however, I should say that in Krishna's relationship with the gopis, you will not once, anywhere in any scripture, Krishna's relationship with the gopis, you'll never hear any pastime with them having sex. There's no sex in it. So, you know, they're not married, but there's no sex. So very different than, you know, our material relationships unmarried, you know, like that. So you can't compare. You can't compare Krishna's relationship with the gopis unmarried with our relationship with others unmarried. You know, it's not comparable because there's no sex, you know.
You compare yourself with the Krishna.
That's right. So you can't do that. You know, so it was just pure love. You know, the gopis just wanted to please Krishna. You know, and Krishna just wanted to please the gopis. Krishna just wanted, it's just pure love. So wonderful, we got to talk about that. So yeah, next time we'll just read the purport for that one for today, but we read through the translation and talked about some pretty nice things. Complete surrender. That's what we're aiming for. So like that guy was aiming for, my goal is to get 100 grand a year. But what should our goal be? Our goal should be, I want to be like the gopis, you know, completely surrendered to Krishna.
My goal is to be, remember the words of Mangalarti, which is very tongue twisting, and they are singing and very nice, and I stand like an idiot, only listening. I'm trying to get that. Okay, I'll try.
Yeah, it's just practice. I mean, I was the same when I started out. I can't remember anything, didn't know anything, but you just slowly, and you know, keep.
I can't even catch up on the laminated sheets. They were so fast and nice and rhythm. They're saying that. Tulsi Aarti, I can do that, but Mangalarti, oh, Ashtagam.
Just keep the desire; it'll come.
Bhaktimala, can you do it?
I spent nearly a year out there.
Oh, really? Good on you. I'll try that too. But Krishna knows that I'm just standing there. My bhav is there to learn. It's up to Krishna. If he's the intelligence, if he taught me, okay. If he doesn't, okay.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, look at Bhaktimala. She was standing in the audience, but then look like now she's on the altar. Oh, you know, so it takes time, but you can get there. You can get to that point where you can. And in the beginning, you're not thinking that one day you're standing on the altar.
Bhaktimala is serious, and I don't know how to become a serious. That's the problem.
In Mongolatis with the sheet and
yes, that's what I do. But people doing without sheets. That's what I want to do without sheets. Oh well.
Yeah, but step by step. It's like you can't have a postgraduate degree when you're 5 years old, can you? You have to go through step by step.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, lovely to see you all.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Hare
Krishna.
See you next Thursday.
Yes. See you next Thursday.
Beautiful.
If we are alive.
Yes. That's why we always finish whatever we say, Krishna willing.
Yes, Krishna willing, yes.
Oh, I'm going to go to India next year, Krishna willing.
Jagannath willing.
You like that? I'm going to distribute, you know, 100 Bhagavad Gitas, 108 Bhagavad Gitas, Krishna willing.
It's not I, actually. Krishna will tell us, then we do it. There's no I.
No, but the I is that, like I said, we have the desire.
Yes.
So, you know, I have the desire to distribute Bhagavad Gita. I have a desire to go to India. But then it's up to Krishna whether it actually happens.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think so. Well.
So it's not only Krishna in the equation. It's us and Krishna, because that's an impersonal philosophy to see that it's just Krishna. So I'm an individual and Krishna's an individual, but he's the supreme individual and I'm not. You know, I'm a tiny individual and I'm completely helpless. You know, I'm depending on Krishna to fulfill all my desires. But the real thing, and that's real surrender, is where we line up our desires with Krishna's. So what I want matches what Krishna wants. And that's real oneness. That's real oneness.
Yeah.
When the lover and the beloved want the same thing.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, right? There's two things. Krishna wants fight, Arjuna wants not fight.
Yeah.
But at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, what's the difference?
And Krishna is Arjuna surrender.
Krishna still wanted the same thing, fight. But Arjuna changed.
Yes.
Arjuna changed. In the beginning, it was not to fight. But at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, it was, yes, okay, I'll fight. Because you want me to fight, then I'll fight. So we want to line up our desires with Krishna's desires. And that is Sharanagati. That is surrender, Sharanagati. And that's the whole process of Krishna consciousness, bring us to the point where we can surrender to Krishna. Yeah. I'm yours, Krishna. Please engage me in your service. How can I serve you? What can I do to please you? I just want to satisfy you. Okay, you want me to clean the toilet. Okay, I'll do it. You want me to stand up on a stage and preach to 10,000 people. Okay, I'll do it. You know, whatever you want me to grow vegetables, I'll do it. You know, whatever you want me to travel around, distribute books, you know, I'll do it. You know, so whatever Krishna wants, you know.
Yeah.
And then how do we know what Krishna wants? I mean, that was easy for Arjuna because Krishna's standing there telling him, I want you to fight. But for us, you know, Krishna's so, you know, apparently not here now, but we can understand through the spiritual master,
Spiritual
through
master,
senior
associated with the
devotees.
temple,
Yeah, said
and
through the
devotee
temple, you know,
associations.
the senior devotees, the sadhus, the senior devotees, and
Yeah,
the spiritual master,
Yeah.
and you know, and from the scriptures also, from Bhagavad Gita and the books, like that we can understand what to do, what we
Yeah.
should do. Mm.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to hear you going to Mangalarti. That's a good sign.
That's the whole idea. That's why I'm going to the temple. I'm going to go tomorrow first in the morning.